India versus Pakistan is a statement that is usually associated towards cricket. The sport of cricket is one of national pride for each country and is interpreted by its citizens as a show of force, a show of pure dominance. To be an Indian or Pakistani cricketer is the equivalent of being a South African rugby player or a South American football player. Yes, I said football. But the true rivalry between the two states is not played on the sports field, but instead it's in their military force. India and Pakistan have had four major wars fought between them in the last 77 years, and it's all due to a territorial dispute, a dispute over Kashmir. Kashmir is one of the most dangerous places on earth, with three of the four major wars fought in this region going back almost three generations. Millions have lost their homes and their families because of this conflict between India and Pakistan. But the question as usual is, how did we get here? And what does the future hold for the everyday citizen of Kashmir? As with most nations in the world, India and Pakistan was colonized by Great Britain. The first Brit to walk on Indian soil was John Mildenhall, who visited the subcontinent in 1599. The following year, the British East India Company was given a royal charter by Queen Elizabeth I, which granted the company a monopoly on trade with the East Indies. But it's only in 1858 when the British took control of the entire Indian subcontinent, and they held that position until Independence Day of India and Pakistan on the 14th of August 1947. India and Pakistan, led by Mahatma Gandhi and Muhammad Ali Jinnah, were finally free of the British, but it didn't take long until dispute and conflict set in. One thing you need to know is that before Independence Day of both countries, the British didn't rule every single piece of land in the subcontinent. The British only ruled strategic areas, while monarchs or princely states ruled other parts. The division between princely states and the British can be seen on this map. India was mostly Hindu dominated, and Pakistan was mostly Muslim dominated. So when the time for independence came, the British drew a border based on religion. India would belong to a Hindu but secular state, and Pakistan would be ruled by a Muslim majority. The princely states got to choose between the two countries, with most monarchs following the will of the people. The newly formed countries came with many problems because Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs lived with one another for hundreds of years, but now millions of people were to uproot their lives and move to their side of the border. Those who were Muslim and lived in newly formed India had to move to Pakistan, and those who were Hindu and lived in newly formed Pakistan had to move to India. It was utter chaos. Approximately 15 million people had to move across the borders, leaving behind their clothes, their belongings, and their ancestral homes. Among the chaos, hundreds of thousands were murdered, and countless amounts of women were raped and killed. It was a crisis created by the reckless mismanagement of an imperial power. The border that was drawn by the British basically divided Kashmir into two parts. Kashmir was a princely state and therefore had to choose between the two countries. The monarch in Kashmir was Hindu, but the people were a Muslim majority. Fearing backlash from either side, the monarch chose to stay neutral and he tried to create his own country. Pakistan, however, was skeptical of this decision and precipitated the war a few weeks after its independence by launching tribal militia in an effort to capture Kashmir and to preempt the possibility of its ruler joining India. Of course, India was not happy with this offensive force and retaliated by sending an army into Kashmir. India and Pakistan fought a brutal war for 18 months until the newly formed United Nations brokered a deal for ceasefire on the 5th of January 1949. The deal highlighted which side Pakistan would control and which side India would control. The deal also required that both the Pakistani militia and Indian military withdraw from the area, while the people of Kashmir got to vote in a referendum which would see which country Kashmir would join. But neither side withdrew their men. The Pakistanis claimed that the land was theirs because of a Muslim majority, and the Indians claimed Kashmir because the monarch had ceded succession. The vote in Kashmir was never held, and the second of four wars took place in 1965. The same issues were still at play, with both sides ramping up on their nuclear weapons programs. The war in 1965 ended with more death than territory and gave way for the Third War, but this time the war was fought in East Pakistan. The Indians helped militia to overthrow the government, and a new state was formed and named Bangladesh in 1971. This loss was painful for the Pakistanis and led to even more military force and conflict in the region of Kashmir. The final war between India and Pakistan was fought in 1999, and it yielded the same results: more casualties, with neither side gaining any ground. Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs lived in peace amongst one another for hundreds of years before the partition. Many Kashmiris wish for the old days. All the people want is peace in the region and peace between Delhi and Islamabad. As always, we, the everyday citizen, will be hoping that this conflict finds an amicable end and that the Kashmiris may know peace. Thanks for watching.